Hello everyone, Greenfrog here, and tonight I'm going to be talking about a show that I love and I have had a lot of fond memories with, and one that has had an impact on me, Game of Thrones. Now, I didn't watch Game of Thrones when it first came out. For one thing, I wasn't really old enough to watch stuff like that yet, but around 2015, 2016 I started buying or borrowing Game of Thrones DVDs. And let's talk about the world. The world of Westeros in Game of Thrones is absolutely massive. It is expansive. There are seas, mountain ranges, all these different cities and different parts of it. And it is a very well realised world. It has a lot of it's also a very believable fantasy location. I guess one of my big disappointments with Game of Thrones, though, is that, I mean, there's no magic in it, really. There's no... There is no... I mean, it's like a fantasy, but there is no... very little elements of magic in it, or, like, spells or wizardry. It's a lot more based on, you know, artillery and swords and battles and fighting and dragons, and Game of Thrones gives you that in spades. I guess if you wanted a more magical experience, you'd go watch something else. But for what it was, Game of Thrones was a very solid show with a lot of great characters. Now, I love most of the characters of Game of Thrones. Let's see, Sean Bean plays Ned Stark in the first season, and there are a lot more characters. And my very favourite character, and I know this is a pretty easy choice, but Peter Dinklage's Tyrion Lannister, who is he's a dwarf, just like Peter is in real life, but he is so likable and he's so quotable and he's such a smart and witty character, and you just love him when each time he's on screen. I mean, one of my favourite moments from Tyrion was actually a line that I misheard, where he says, "I love to drink mulberry wine," which I thought he said, "I like to drink mouldy wine," like he likes to drink wine that's mouldy. He says like mouldy wine, and like that's how I remember it, as mouldy wine instead of mulberry wine, which is something that I kind of took on myself, and it's something I say it every now and then because I think it's funny. Now, let's talk about the maybe some more controversial aspects about this show. The nudity and the violence. So yeah, Game of Thrones was kind of I'm not sure if it was the first show that did this, but it was probably the first popular show that really showed full frontal nudity in spades in the show. You see so much of it. There's a lot of sex, there's a lot of prostitution, and there is lots of there are women in the show that are related to as whores, and there's a lot of sexual stuff, and also a lot of brutal violence. There is decapitations. There's also one scene where a guy gets his eyes pressed in and his entire skull explodes and his brain comes out, and it's brutal violence. It's a very violent show, and but you kind of like it, you know. It kind of hooks you in. You want to see how the story plays out, and you know that characters are going to die in the show, and you want to know how they die and how they bite the dust. And it's always emotional and sad when you see your favourite character die, even though there are a lot of characters that survive, and I won't spoil anything, but like a lot of the fan favourite characters are with you until the very end, but some are picked off every now and then. You're like, ooh, I like that character, now you're not going to see that character anymore. The lore and pathos of the show is great too. I mean, there's always... the show's going backwards and forwards between the different clans and towns and different families. The Lannister family, the Winterfell family, Cersei's kingdom, and also the story of what was her name? Daenerys Targaryen, the Queen of Dragons, and how she raises her dragons and becomes a unstoppable force, and she kind of makes her own empire, becomes her own queen, kind of by herself through her ruthless grit and determination throughout the entire show. The story is basically the journeys of each of the characters and how they clash between kingdoms and how they'll overcome hardship and problems. And it's great for that. And I am sad that it's now over. A lot of people weren't happy with the way it ended. I thought it ended alright, but it could have ended better. I mean, I think Breaking Bad had one of the best endings ever. But this is not a horrible ending. It's a bit underwhelming compared to the rest of the show. Overall, I would give this show probably a 9 out of 10 overall. It is a very, very solid and high quality show, and a show that you should definitely watch if you haven't already. I highly recommend it. And yeah, may the dead never die. Thanks for watching.